Hey guys, it's your Hereford Real News, and Hereford Riverside sex attack, rapist jailed for life. So it's been weeks and weeks and weeks since we heard about the terrible attacks on women and the lack of police dealings and activity, and all I can say is it must be videos like mine and videos like other YouTubers who are prompting the police to act, okay? Because these photos are all well and good during the day, but then these officers are in the office doing nothing, okay? So today, 3rd of October, I can now reveal the Riverside rapist is a man called Andrew Cook Edwards, okay? Double-barreled name, Andrew Cook Edwards, and he is the Riverside rapist in Hereford, okay? Now, this guy comes from a good background, as I say, double-barreled name, and incidentally, a very nice house in Hailstone Hill, Hereford. So let's dig into it. A dangerous sex offender has been jailed for life after abducting, raping, and threatening to kill a vulnerable young mum in Hereford. Now, this is the first time I'm hearing about abducting, okay? Mainstream news don't tell you that. But he abducted a young mum, okay? And he literally subjected her to hours of rape, okay? But it is worrying because it says he's been jailed for life, but excruciatingly, he's only been jailed for a minimum of 9 years. Andrew James Cook Edwards sat by the River Wye for almost 2 hours before he chose his 23-year-old victim and lured her into the woods behind the sewage works, Worcester Crown Court was told. This is the bit that gets me, okay? He was jailed for life with a minimum term of 9 years, okay? Which basically means if he is a very good boy, he will be out in 9 years. If he shows contrition, if he shows that he's sorry, he will be out in 9 years, okay? So he was jailed for life with a minimum term of more than 9 years for what prosecution barrister Matthew Butt, appropriate name, isn't it, said was a brazen abduction of a vulnerable young woman in broad daylight. Okay? Now, if it was broad daylight, why couldn't she scream? Okay? And it seems to me that everybody's vulnerable today. Okay, so after snatching an iPhone out of the hands of the victim, a mother, he led her to the secluded location by the River Wye where he raped her and carried out another serious sexual assault whilst threatening 3 times to kill her as he grabbed her by the throat. Guys, this is Hereford. It's the River Wye. It's full of drug dealers, drug takers. Why didn't anybody hear this? Why didn't anybody see this? He also threw her phone into the river and took her purse. the court heard how the victim had been forced to leave Hereford because of the Riverside sex attacks in 2020, having sleepless nights and being unable to look after her child. Now, it happened in 2020, okay, but we're now 2022 and it's happened again. So is this the same man that's responsible for this, or are we looking for other people? Personally, I think there's a lot more people out there. Mr. Butt, the prosecution, said that after the 30-minute attack, Cook Edwards left the scene and returned to his home in Aylstone Hill. He then put his clothes he was wearing, which was a black tracksuit and white trainers, in a nearby bin and shaved his beard off. He then lied to police, saying he had been at home all day and never met the woman, before changing his story to falsely accuse her of being a prostitute he had arranged to meet. He still denied 2 counts of rape. After the case was taken to court, he pleaded guilty, but then changed these pleas. He then pleaded guilty a second time, but tried to argue he could not be guilty of rape when he appeared in court to be sentenced. It goes on to say, he said that his barrister had not taken up the issue of no forensic evidence with CPS, but the decision left him without legal representation during sentencing, as Alistair George Williamson, his lawyer, withdrew over professional embarrassment. So, is this the right man? Have they caught the right man, or is it because we're giving the police so much pressure that they'll pick anyone? Okay, so there was no forensic evidence, and his lawyer withdrew from the case over professional embarrassment, which basically is a posh word for saying he completely and utterly got it wrong. The judge then proceeded to sentence, saying the absence of DNA evidence was not evidence in itself. What? DNA is not evidence? Adding, the victim had identified Cook Edwards as the rapist. Well, I can go on the street and name 4 people that have raped me. It doesn't mean it's true. There was, however, CCTV evidence of him leaving the scene. Now, does that corroborate his story? That she was a hooker, a prostitute? I don't know. I really don't. This is a very weird one. During the court hearing, Judge Nicholas Cartwright was told by the prosecutor how Cook Edwards had previously broken into another vulnerable woman's home and threatened to rape her. He was jailed for 4.5 years and only released 10 months before the rape in 2020. This is very bizarre, this one, honestly. He had also previously been sentenced for threatening to leak the semi-naked photos of a 19-year-old girl with special educational needs if she didn't meet him for sex. Summing up, the judge said Cook Edwards had been manipulative and scheming as he tried to worm his way out of guilty pleas, but also had used his large and powerfully built 6 foot 6 inches body to accost and abduct a lone woman. He said the attack was prolonged and sustained, with the use of threat of violence causing extreme psychological harm to the victim. There had been an element of planning, with Cook Edwards sitting by the riverside for just shy of 2 hours as he picked up a victim. But he said he was there because he had problems with his head and heart. There was no mitigation, so there was nothing on his side. The judge concluded there was a significant of risk to the public if Cook Edwards was released, saying he was likely to offend again soon after. The judge said that as a teenager, Cook Edwards followed girls and sent pictures of his naked body, and said that without a doubt he was a dangerous offender. After pleading guilty to 2 counts of rape, Cook Edwards was sentenced to life in prison, but with a minimum of 9 years. 9 months and 18 days before the parole board can consider him for release. I can promise you there's something very, very rotten here with this case. Could he be the riverside rapist? Or has his past and the fact that he was in the area at the time got something to do with it? And why jail for life when you are only given 9 years? Something very, very strange and rotten here. Anyway, that's your update, and all keep safe.